There are few things more in common across cultures than the belief in ghosts. Ghosts inhabit something of the very essence of what it is to be human. Whether we personally believe or not, we are all aware of ghosts and the rich mythologies and rituals surrounding them. They have inspired, fascinated, and frightened us for centuries. Yet most of us are only familiar with the vengeful apparitions of Shakespeare, or the ghastly spectres haunting the pages of 19th century Gothic literature. But their origins are much, much older.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Tam Ricky, and welcome to Bants with Boo, episode 5.
5?
What was all that about?
5?
Paranormal.
Paranormal.
And I am once again joined by my good friend, the one, the only.
Ricky Rojas, yes. Hello, everyone. I am back.
So what did you think of that intro?
I thought it was a really good intro.
No, you're probably like, well, what are these origins that he's talking about? And what's going on? What is it all
I don't
about?
know. Tell me more. I'm intrigued.
Well,
I've been wanting to ask you to tell me about all these paranormal stories, but you're like, no, I'll just save it for the podcast, Boo. I'll save it for the podcast.
I had to save them. Well, we put it out to the audience and on Instagram Live, or however you want to put it, and then we had a few suggestions come back, and Paranormal was the overall winner.
Yeah, it was like 86% or something.
Yeah, it was pretty high.
Pretty high. So people like to get spooked.
Yeah, people like the ooky spooky.
I like a spook. Yes.
So we're just going to talk a little bit about paranormal and its roots and where it all sort of came about. And from my little bit of research that I did, the intro actually refers to
Tamutu, paranormal investigator.
Yeah, historian. No, not at all. But like, it's good to give you something that's a little.
Go on, Boo.
Give
us the knowledge. Give us the knowledge, Boo. Go on.
So this introduction that we played was actually from a book. The book is called "The First Ghosts, Most Ancient of Legacies" by Irving Finkel. Now, he's referring to an ancient tablet. This tablet was made back in ancient Babylon around 1500 BCE, he thinks. And they think it's the most early known depiction of a ghost.
No way.
This clay tablet that was found is basically part of a guide for exorcising ghosts. And it's actually held in collections of the British Museum at the moment, apparently.
That's mental.
So what this tablet does, so on this tablet, apparently there's drawing on it, but there's also inscription. So you can only see it through specific light, which is kind of cool in itself. The British Museum, acquired it in the 19th century, but it's never been exhibited, apparently. I don't know why.
It's because people do the incantations and bring forth the apocalypse.
Ooky spooky.
Why would they put that shit out?
Exactly.
It's like The Exorcist. That's like what happens at the beginning of The Exorcist. I watched that for breakfast the other day too. Yeah, I'm weird. And there's like an archaeological dig, and they find some stuff like in ancient Samaria or like Iraq.
Right.
And it's like this demon.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Let's not go on tangents just yet.
Sorry.
I know you're going to go off on one. So let's just finish this tablet. So this tablet is small enough to fit in a person's hand, believe it or not. And half of it is missing, so that could be key. But the object still holds careful, detailed instructions on getting rid of pesky ghosts. So these ghost figures. So the directions are...
Pesky goats.
Yeah.
Goats.
Goats. The same thing. Goats.
Pesky goats.
So the exorcism calls for you have to make figurines of a man and a woman.
Wait, don't teach people how to do it.
No, this is what it says on the inscription of the tablet.
But now you're teaching people how to do this. They
got to know what goes through. This is what they do. Well, this is what it says to do. So you have a man and woman, like figurines, and then you prepare 2 vessels of beer, and at sunrise, you speak the ritual words calling on the Mesopotamian god Shamash. I mean, that sounds cool in itself.
At sunrise?
Yep. Shamash, who was responsible...
Don't say his name.
He's responsible for bringing ghosts to the underworld back in, this is in the Mesopotamian, which I believe is based in, I think it's Iraq, isn't it?
Iraq or Iran.
But that's basically that area, which was known as Mesopotamian. anyway, the god Shamash, he was responsible for bringing ghosts to the underworld. So the idea was to transfer Ghost into one of the figurines.
Oh, dude, this is freaky. This is freaky deaky shit, dude. This is like child's play.
But listen to this.
This is nuts.
Yeah, but listen to this.
I can't be doing that.
Apparently, the text's final line urges readers not to look behind you.
Oh, fuck off! No way!
Yeah, for
I
real.
just shat myself when you said that.
A little bit, right?
Oh, no.
So it says, urges don't look behind you. And they think the reason for that is probably intended as an instruction aimed at the figurines entering the underworld, but it's possible it's directed at the exorcist.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I got goosebumps when you said, like, it's like, don't look behind you.
So what do you reckon? I think it's pretty cool.
Mate. Dude, that's like, but like getting like a demon to go into an inanimate object.
To get rid.
That's like Annabelle or like The Conjuring, where they put that spirit into that doll, or Child's Play.
Right. And we're talking about this was, so what did I say? This was back in 1500 BC. This tablet, wasn't it? So since then, obviously, a lot's gone on and a lot of things have transpired, and there's been a lot more paranormal activity. Just going to go on a history buff again, just to keep it moving. As we're in the US, we'll do the US. I didn't do the UK because, the podcast needs to be short. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. But the first documented haunting in the US happened in the 18th century. This is documented. This doesn't mean to say it hasn't happened before then, which obviously it has, in Hancock County.
Hancock.
So listen to this, in the winter of 1799, in the small coastal town of Sullivan, so if you live in Sullivan, Maine, good luck, began what is known as the first documented haunting in the United States. During this series of hauntings, numerous residents of the town claim they saw and heard the ghost of Nellie Butler, a young woman. You were going to
say Nellie Furtado then.
We could only hope.
The ghost of Nellie Furtado.
Nellie Furtado. Millie Vanilli.
I'm like a bird, I'll only fly away.
Yeah, sadly not, no. So heard the ghost of Nellie Furtado Butler, a young woman who died 3 years before. So this phenomenon was recorded by the Reverend Abraham Cummings, a traveling preacher who believed the apparition was a spirit sent from heaven. Cummings collected 31 eyewitness testimonies from town residents, which he included in a book titled Immortality, Proved by the Testimony of Sense, in which is considered the doctrine of spectres and the existence of a particular spectre.
This is interesting, but I've got to play devil's advocate here.
Go on.
Like all these eyewitness accounts from that time back then, like when the witch hunts and stuff, like the Puritans and all that stuff,
like in Salem.
It's got to be, it's got to be taken with a pinch of salt, because it was basically
an excuse to burn people,
excuse to burn women who were speaking out, right, and had a voice,
right.
So I'm going to take that with a pinch of salt.
So you're sitting on the fence.
I'm not sitting on the fence. I'm not saying that there isn't.
What about the tablet then?
The tablet. Look, listen. Like, there's been freaky deaky shit going on for a long time. So I think people, were documenting it. Of course I do. I think there's stuff out there that you can't prove, or you can't. We don't know what's out there.
Have you ever seen the show Ancient Aliens?
Dude, I love that show. Yeah, I geek out on that show so hard.
So we could actually do a whole podcast just on Ancient Aliens, because there's so much stuff in there. But if you think about it, all that stuff, and then you think about all the inscriptions, the drawings that they've found in caves and caverns throughout the world, and then even we could throw in the whole Mayan sort of disappearance and the whole Mayan sort of race. They're fascinating just in themselves. Those who don't know the Mayans, they were here 1 minute and then disappeared the next.
Yeah.
But intelligent.
Yeah. But that's like aliens and stuff.
Exactly. But that's still paranormal. That's still paranormal ghosts, isn't it? Aliens, paranormal. I don't know.
Aliens aren't ghosts, dude. Aliens are little green men or reptilians.
Little green men. You heard it here, folks. Folks.
And they're not ghosts.
Little green men.
I mean, they could
But how do we know? How do we know? Isn't it all kind of like in the same sort of... paranormal is kind of freaky deaky, right? So
yeah, but it's not like...
So you think extraterrestrials completely different?
I think it's totally different. It's a different genre. All
right. Well, we'll leave it. We'll leave it at that. But Ancient Aliens kind of taps into a bit of both, really.
Yeah, but I love that. I love Ancient Aliens.
So, in order to keep this moving, tell me a bit about your paranormal experience.
My paranormal experience.
You sitting on the fence? You still have?
I've had a few. I'll be like,
a few.
When my granddad died, me and my mum saw him at the same time, which is weird.
What do you mean you saw him at the same time?
We saw him out the corner of our eye. We saw a figure sit down on a couch.
What?
At the same time, and he was wearing brown. It was wearing brown trousers.
Right.
And he sat down, and I said, "Mum, did you see that?" I was only about 12 or something. I was like, "Mum, did you see?" She's like, "What did you see?" I was like, "I saw someone sit down on the couch wearing brown trousers," and we thought, and she's like, "That's exactly what I saw."
What, wasn't that Fred the bin man from down the street?
Nah, dude. And my granddad had died like a day before, 2 days before, in South America, in Chile. Figure that one out.
No.
And then also another one. I swear, a house that we lived in Australia was haunted. Because we'd hear my dad arrive from work. We'd hear the door open and close, and then like footsteps up the stairs, like he was coming in, and he'd arrive home like 2 hours later, and it wasn't him. We'd all like be like, "Hi, Dad, hi." Nothing. Yeah. And one time I was playing on my Sega Master System 2.
Nice plug there. Nice plug.
Yeah. And the door was open. I was in my mum's room, and all the adults were in the lounge room, I think, and they were like making noise. And I was like, God, they're so noisy. And I don't know why, but I decided to call this entity in the house Andrew.
Right.
I called him Andrew, and I went, "Andrew, can you just shut the door?" And guess what Andrew did?
No, come on.
He shut the freaking door.
No
I shat myself.
No
Mate,
way.
I swear to you, he shut the door. I was like, "Andrew, shut the door."
You sure it wasn't just your mum from the other side just like leant in and just said, "Oh, he wants
no one else there, dude. No one else there." I was playing on my Sega Master System. I was playing Sonic the Hedgehog or something. And I went, "Andrew, close the door, please." And he closed the door. I shat myself. I've never run out of that room faster.
So you ran past the person.
Yeah, it was freaky dicky, yeah. It was freaky.
So you ran towards the scary thing.
Well, that was the only way out. I wasn't going to jump out the window.
Oh, this goes into like my booze breakdown. I'm not going to lie, but we'll talk about that later.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
So what do you think it is about paranormal that gets people sort of going, and whether they believe or not, or because I think majority of people believe in some kind of spiritual stuff.
You have to believe. I mean, because otherwise you would know. You'd be all knowing. But you don't know. You don't know what's out. No one knows what's out there. No one knows what's after death. Right?
Right. True.
So there could be something, there could be not. But no one can say, "Oh, I definitely know that ghosts don't exist," because you don't know. You don't.
But don't you think it's a bit awkward? Like, okay, so we have like a situation where we're just going about our lives normally, and then there's ghosts hanging about the place. You can't
just hanging about.
You're hanging about. You can't.
How you doing, mate? You all right?
But you can't see them. You can't see them necessarily. Some people say they can see them, but for argument's sake, you can't see them. So you're going about your business. Well, there could be in the bathroom with you. You know what I mean? They could be.
Well, I reckon like
be anywhere.
I reckon things that are sensitive to a different spectrum can see things. So like cats, I think, are very good at seeing through that veil, right? So they always see weird shit, right? And like kids, like babies, right? So Murph's probably going to be seeing some weird shit right now, right?
Right.
We'll see stuff. I remember my mum saying that she was in a house and my brother would be waving down the hallway to things and there was nothing there. And like he'd be playing and laughing with something down the hallway.
No.
Right? And yeah, for sure. And Raph, my son.
Hold up. Kids have imaginary friends. You know that, right? They do have people that they see that aren't there. And that's the thing where
Raph used to have an imaginary friend called Buster.
There you go. So that doesn't necessarily mean there's a ghost there chatting with him. It means
no, but then he also said he saw one day. Oh, that was like a little ping. Sorry, excuse me.
Turn it off.
But also he said that he saw a figure of a woman in a blue dress in his room. in the corner.
Raf said this.
Yeah, when he was a kid. And that freaked me out. Like, kids see shit, man. It's because they don't know. It's like, they're open to it.
I think the imaginations back then, when you don't know any better, I think are more sort of wild. I mean, I used to sit in bed because you freak yourself out sometimes as well. I'm one of these people who still now I don't care for, like, I'm not very good at having doors open slightly or ajar. It's share all my phobias again. That just goes into, like, it's not really phobia. It's just like I don't like. I have growing up. I would always have to. So I slept under like a window, and I'd always tuck the curtains in so there was no gaps. Do you know what I mean? So,
from the window, it's like to see outside.
No gaps, because I always imagined that I would look through the gap and there'd be some eyes just staring. One of my biggest fears is just seeing a face in a window just staring at you. Like, I mean, I'm sure everyone pictures that, but like, it's true. As a kid, my imagination was wild. So I always block off gaps, always, and the door. If the wardrobe was open or anything slightly ajar, and I still do this now, I swear to God, I have to close it. I can't have doors open. I cannot allow it. Any little crack, any little slightly ajar, no, can't do it. And that's anywhere I stay. I'm like, no, there's spooky in there, or something's gonna jump out.
It's the fear of the unknown. The one that gets me is like having my leg outside my bed.
Did that as well? Didn't I? As a kid, I had my this. I mean, I was a freaky little kid, obviously. So curtains are like tucked in, doors closed, duvet over my neck because I didn't want to get bit by a vampire. I shit you not. Over my neck, all the way up, and feet had to be tucked in, so I couldn't have my feet out because then the critters or the gremlins would eat my feet.
How did you survive? You would have got suffocated.
You know what? That's why I'm a nervous wreck to this day. You know, that's why I can't function. I can't function because as a kid I was petrified.
Oh my God!
But I was lucky. I'd always have as well in my bedroom. I had one of those beds, a single bed, and then I had another bed underneath, so like for a guest or whatever. But there was always a gap in between there. And before I went to bed, I'd always check it as well. I'd always check in the gap. And luckily, we had a cat back then who used to like sleeping in there. So that always made me feel good. So I'd check to see if she was there. And she invariably would be there. And if she wasn't there, I'd go and grab her and stuff her in there, generally.
Dude, when I was a kid, I used to share a bedroom with my brother growing up. Yeah. And I used to have the bottom bunk and he was on the top. And I'd be a real scaredy cat, and at night he'd freak the shit out of me. Like he wouldn't give a shit. He'd freak the fuck out of me, and like we'd be going to bed, and he'd be like, "Oh,
no, that's so not cool."
I'd be like, "Johnny, stop it!" And then he'd be like, in Spanish, the tomb. He'd be like, "La tumba," and I'd be like, "What?"
What an arsehole.
The shit out. La tumba. What a fucker.
Yeah, that's mean. That's just mean.
Yeah, it's mean. But like brothers torment little brothers. It's fine.
That's scary. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. That's
like there's some freaky shit going on. Like I remember before I was born, my parents had a house in Australia. It was when my brother and sister were like 1 and 2 or something, and my dad was working a lot at Qantas doing shift work, and my mum was home alone. And that house had something in it for sure.
I've been in houses. I've been in houses. I think have been weird. Yeah,
like,
sure.
Yeah, like my mum would hear thumps, like a heavy thing falling on the floor in the bedroom. She'd hear the TV on when it was off.
No. Bye-bye.
That was the house that my brother would like down the hallway be waving to stuff at, and apparently some guy died in the house of a heart attack in the bedroom, and he fell onto the floor.
Right.
So I was like, "What's the thump that you're hearing, Mum?" Crazy.
I mean, we've all been in like friends' houses, which some friends they've got these big old, and especially in England as well, because obviously people have the old sort of like Tudor sort of style ones, and then those ones which are like got levels, 3 or 4 levels. And we're not talking about like an apartment sort of building, which is different. Those kind of creepy ass old houses where you go up and it just seems to keep going up like not even spiral staircases, but like it wraps around, and then these rooms which no one's ever slept in for 50 years. My friend used to have a house like that, and we'd play kind of like a version of hide and seek. And
no way, not in that house.
Oh man, it was.
What,
Well, you'd have one,
crazy?
but the person who was like it had to do like that. Down the hall. Like, so you'd just be hiding and we'd separate and we're like, why are we separating? What are we doing? So you'd run into a room and then you'd hear and like just dumb shit. And yeah, so like, I mean, a lot of it's self-inflicted, I think. But,
yeah, it's a lot of it's mind play.
But I mean, anyway, this isn't really like paranormal. So let's talk about, as moving on. So your paranormal experiences were interesting. So did it make so it obviously made you believe more?
I mean, it just makes me. I mean, I like science, so I look at it as science.
Yeah.
From a science perspective, you know, energy cannot. You can't get rid of energy. Energy can only be transferred. So when the consciousness of the body that's in the body or whatever ceases to exist, I believe that energy goes somewhere.
Right.
It can't disappear. So it could be that places that are haunted are like a photocopy of energy. Like maybe energy's gone into the material, the physical material of the place, and it's stuck there.
Yep.
So that might be why we see like ghosts doing the same thing over and over again. Like it's like a video replay of emotion or energy that's just stuck. Do you know what I mean? It could be that.
Totally.
I don't know. Who knows? That's a good theory. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
No, I think it's a good theory. It makes sense. I just can't get my head around that sort of feeling of we're sat here right now, and it could be I'm in my little sound room, and I could have a bunch of people in there with me, and we wouldn't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's science as well, man. It's like we can only see a certain amount of like. What's the word? We can only see a certain amount of the light spectrum.
Right.
Like we only see light rays. We don't see UV. We don't see X-ray. We don't see other vibrations. So it's quite possible that there could be a little green man standing, or a little boy, or like a woman standing next to you, being like, "Hi, Tam."
Awkward, super awkward. Though when you finally snuff it, and then you start doing it, you're like, that's awkward. All those things I did, and you were there watching. Creepy.
Crazy.
But bearing in mind, who knows we can't see it because you also only use about a third of your brain. Who knows what?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe like cats can see it because their brains are wired differently.
Maybe we can all levitate and teleport and things like that.
Or maybe babies can see it because their pineal gland isn't calcified yet, so they can see different things. Do you know what I mean?
Hold up, Dr. Oz. What was that?
The pineal gland is a gland in the brain.
Did you just Google that?
No, I know this stuff. This knowledge in my brain because I'm a nerd. The pineal gland is a gland in your brain that it's the consciousness, I think, and it gets affected by different drugs that your body releases. But as you get older, it gets calcified, so it doesn't function as properly. I think that's it. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's it.
But I wonder if like then medicines, like not medicines, but like drugs tap into that and then you allow you to see things that you wouldn't.
Well, yeah, and that's like what people go on ayahuasca trips and stuff like that, because it releases a DMT.
Totally.
Which is a drug that
we're not advocating that, by the way. We're just saying that's why people do that.
Yeah, and it bypasses that, I suppose, and it gives you different visions.
As a sort of side note, I have always wanted to do an LSD trip. I don't know why, but just under guidance. I do. Just when I would
freak.
Yeah, but like sometimes you might find things out, and then things might all make sense. You'd have to have a guide. You can't do that sort of stuff on your own.
You have to have a shaman.
I'd have to have Shamash. What's his name again?
No, don't say his name, dude. I don't want to look behind me.
Yeah, don't look behind you. That reminds me of a movie. We'll talk about movies.
Candyman.
Fine enough. We're got to talk about movies, scary movies that got you going. Let me just give you my paranormal experience. So I can only recall really having one because I obviously was a shit scared kid growing up, so I probably avoided everything anyway, or I don't really recall anything else. But this actually happened not that long ago. I'd say within the last 5 years, I think. So it must have been about 5 years ago. And when I was living up on the Upper West Side, and you can class this as a paranormal or whatever you want to class it as, but to me, it was really freaky. Mm-hmm. So I like to always, everyone knows I like to go for runs and stuff. And we lived very close to Central Park. So my sort of jaunt would be, I come out of the apartment, run down from Columbus across to Central Park West, and then cross that main busy road between Central Park West and then getting into the park. So I'd approached the Central Park West section, and for some reason I was focused, but not like clearly focused enough. Yeah. So as I went to, and I was on the jog, so I'd running. I had headphones in as well, which was a thing where people say you shouldn't have headphones or whatever. Anyway, so I had headphones and I was running, and I ran out. So you can have parked cars on the near side as well of towards Columbus Way. So the other side there are parked cars mostly, but I think I was at sort of 72nd, just where their entrance is, so you can enter the park and then get on the run down towards the loop.
I knew you were going to say 72nd.
Yeah, it was around there anyway. So as I was running, and I get to the point where I'm just about to cross the road, and as I go to run out, I step into off the sidewalk into the road, go past the parked car, and I'm about to enter into the main strip of the street. And literally, I swear to God, somebody grabbed my shoulder, my arm, and pulled me back to the point where I flew backwards.
Shit.
As I flew backwards, this huge truck drove past. So if I'd carried on going, I would have been squished. I am not making that up. That is truth.
Who was it?
I don't know.
Did you turn around and be like...
Yeah, I looked around. There was no one near me. So and I was going at a lick as well. So for somebody to pull me, I don't know if it was like the sensation of being put or whatever, but I literally got yanked back. I can't really... And it felt like from my shoulder, right shoulder mainly, or shoulders, but I got pulled back to the point. And as I literally... I mean, we're talking milliseconds as well. So as I got pulled back behind sort of where that parked car would be, the truck went past. So it would have been an instantaneous.
And there was no one there?
No one there. And then I hear this
freaky.
Then I hear this on the car, as he goes past, because obviously they're pissed off because they nearly killed me. But they wouldn't have been able to stop. It was like milliseconds.
That's mental.
I often have questioned, like, I wonder who that was. Was it my dad? Because my dad's no longer with us. And I thought, I wonder if it was him maybe pulling me back, or I don't know. I've often reran the scenario and in my head and thought, how did that happen? Because we all have because we have instincts. We do have instincts. But I didn't, for some reason, normally, being British, obviously we have to look right,
the other way.
Yeah, they'll quote me the other way. But for some reason, I didn't look left that day, and I just was sort of in my zone. I'm just going to cross the street.
Shit.
And I don't know, because like we all have like instincts and reactions, and you can sort of react to things quickly. But there's no way I was doing it. Not that quick. No way.
So it's mental. That's very interesting. Very interesting.
I would say that's my only real proper paranormal or weird sort of.
All right.
I don't even know. I don't even know if you can class that as a paranormal, but it's not kind of a spirit, kind of weird thing that was going on.
Yeah. Hey, that's cool.
So this week we're going to mix it up a bit. So I reached out to several people actually to give me some stories, which we are going to play for you. And these stories I have not actually even listened to myself. I've made sure the audio is okay, but I've not actually listened to them.
All right, let's hear one. Let's hear one.
So we should start, and we're going to start with our good friend Eric Anderson.
Eric Anderson, who plays Ziedler.
Yeah. So let's have a listen. Let's see how this goes over, and then.
All right.
They're not long. They're pretty short, but we'll see.
Let's go.
One Halloween back in the 1980s when I was a child, my sister and I were sorting through the booty of the evenings, trick-or-treatings, And my grandmother was watching us, and there was a big vat of chili on the stove, as there was every Halloween. There came a knock at the door. We thought, that's strange. It's too late to be trick-or-treating at this point. And then there was another knock at the door. It was very persistent. So my grandmother went first, and me and my sister followed, and we went to see who was at the door. She opened the door, and there was nobody there. But there was a sound in the air, sort of.
Oh, fuck no.
No way.
No.
Fuck off.
And then it was gone. We went back into the kitchen to get our chili for dinner, and there on the floor was the giant vat of chili, sitting, with not a drop spilled anywhere on the floor.
Piss off. That's bullshit.
The sound again, but this time it sounded like it came from upstairs.
Go off, Eric.
And the kitchen then flickered. And then everything was back to normal again. Now, I don't know if it was something that was paranormal or if it was just something that was unexplainable. But sometimes you can't tell the two apart. Regardless, we like to think that maybe a ghost was playing a trick on us that Halloween night.
Eric Anderson.
Nah. Did you imagine? I know what it was, though.
Go on.
Because that little... It's like the door knocking, and then I open the door, and it's like, it's a fucking mosquito. It's like a hench mosquito that's just...
A hench
that's rocked
mosquito?
In. Yeah, he's knocked on the door. It's like, ka. Goes in, picks up the chili. He's like, I don't want this. I'm going to set it down on the floor. Puts it on the floor, and then he goes for a little wander upstairs, and he's like... And then he finds himself in a light bulb, and then the lights flicker, and he's like, dies.
Nah, dude. It's obviously, it being Halloween night makes you feel like someone's got a good prank on the go. But I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. Like someone's...
I mean, come on, it must have been a bloody good prank. It could have been the grandma.
Maybe she's
playing a prank.
Yeah, she could have been.
But that's some freaky deaky shit.
Yeah, that's kind of messing your kids up. Yeah.
What is that? What note is that?
Oh my God! Don't be stagey. We don't need to know what note it is.
D. E flat.
You feel better for knowing that now, do you?
E flat, yeah. Crazy.
Oh no, I didn't need to do that.
Oh my God. All right. Good one, Eric Anderson. Good one. And well done. Good storytelling skills.
Yeah, I think he did pretty well with that, didn't he?
Yeah. You should use that as a voiceover thing. It's great.
As a voiceover?
Yeah, send it to your agent. It's amazing.
Yeah, he should. Yeah. Right, we got another one. We got a few more for you.
Okay, go. Next. Now
we're going to go for the lovely, it's Jackie Arnold. Jacqueline Arnold.
Oh, Jackie, okay. La Chocolat in
The year is 1993. I'm about 19 years old. My grandmother had just recently passed away approximately 6 months prior. And I had taken it harder than I expected since she had been ill, but she did live with me in her final days with my mom and I. And so I felt like I was really open in terms of spirituality-wise. I was really open. And I had a job at a place called Sport Chalet this is Los Angeles, California, by the way. And I was going to work one day, and I lived on a street that had quite the incline. It was pretty steep of a street. And I was walking to the bus stop. It was probably about 9:30 in the morning. And I'm strolling down the street, and I see this woman across the street from me. And she looked a little bit weary, almost like she had just worked an overnight shift or something. Her hair, first of all, she was a beautiful, beautiful complexion, like
alarm bells,
perfectly bronzed skin. Yeah. She had jet black hair. It was pulled back in a bun. She was wearing navy blue and top and skirt, and she had on nylons, and she also had on what could be misconstrued as like nursing shoes or something like that, and they were tan. Right. She looked like she might have been a very well-dressed housekeeper, but definitely from like the 70s, maybe even the 80s. And she was carrying 2 paper bags of groceries, which was notable to me because, again, it's 1993 and we weren't really using paper bags anymore. We were primarily using plastic bags at the time. So I'm walking, and like I said, I noticed her because it was just she and I walking on the block. I mean, it's LA, nobody walks in LA. And I see a car coming down the street, and the cars generally would fly down the street because, like I said, the incline was really steep. And she stepped into the street as the car was approaching, and I literally screamed, "No, don't go." And I looked back at the car instead of the woman, and the car just flew right past me. And when I looked again, the woman had completely vanished. No kidding. She had just disappeared into thin air. I was like, what in the hell? And so there were apartments next to where I was. I thought maybe she ran really fast and ran into these apartments. And they were bungalow-style apartments, so all on one level, and you could just walk up to a door. And I literally made myself late for work because I went into these apartments, like, searching for this woman, into the courtyard of the apartment, searching for her, and she truthfully had completely vanished. I was pretty, like, shocked for the remainder of my day. All day I remember being like, is this real, what I just saw? Like, questioning it. But then, you know, sometime thereafter, I kept seeing a few different occurrences, kept having a few different occurrences like that, where I would see people and then look closely and they weren't really there, or it was all very strange. And it's been like that ever since.
Damn, Jackie, damn. She hasn't been here for 15 years.
Old Flojo running down the street with the long nails. Remember Flojo with the long nails? The Olympic sprinter?
Like, it's funny you should say that, like, because Jackie said that she had like a spiritual, like maybe like an awakening or something like that when her grandma passed away. But have you ever seen that movie Stir of Echoes with Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, a long time.
Right, where he gets hypnotized, right? And after he gets hypnotized, he's like, he can see like spirits everywhere because his mind's open to it. That's nuts. So maybe if we don't see it, it's because you're not open to it.
Well, because you're not really looking.
Yeah.
There's lots of movies that are like that, though. Aren't there?
Yeah.
There are lots of movies and sort of like experiences where people say, if you do you choose to see or do you choose to ignore? Because they're too. Because some people believe it but choose to not. Properly look because they're like me, you know, scaredy cat. You know,
scared. Yeah, I think I'd get scared if I saw.
Let's listen to one more. And that was good, though. Good work, Jackie.
Yeah, that was good. Good one, Jackie.
We like Jackie's work.
Who's this? Who else? Who's next?
We're going to go with Mr. Bobby Day.
Bobby Day.
So a few months back, my oldest sister passed away from pancreatic cancer, and we were very, very close. She would call me every morning as she was driving to work so that we would just talk on her whole commute. We were just that close. And so it was very hard when she passed away in October. I found myself, not able to look at her pictures until recently. So it was just this past weekend. It was like 3:00 in the morning on Saturday. I woke up and I just had this urge to go to my phone, and I started to read her text that she sent. And I saw her last text, and just going up, seeing the progression. as I was reading her text, I could hear her voice, saying all those words. And after I finished reading the text, I went to sleep. And for the first time since my sister passed away, I had a dream with her in it. And it was so real because I was speaking to her. And I think that was the one thing that I was missing and couldn't face, was that I would never be able to speak to my sister again. And so the next morning, I spoke to my brother-in-law, and he was speechless because he said about that same time that night, he had a dream of her, which was so real. And he said that was the second time he had a dream of her. And we just thought, oh, that was a coincidence. But then I spoke to my mother, afterwards.
No.
And she got silent. She was like, she woke up that same time in the morning, and she said when she looked in her bathroom, she could see a woman standing there, dressed, a figure in white, and it was one. She knew it was her daughter. She said that was Crystal standing there. So
I just got shivers, dude.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Visited us all at the same time, and so that is one of my stories. But I have
Fuck! That's mental.
No, Bobby Day. Wow.
No way. That's weird.
Yeah, that's
three separate.
That's freaky.
At the same time, three separate instances. That's cool.
That is, I don't even know what to say to that one.
That's
She's obviously
cool.
wanting to visit them, let her know that she was all right, I guess. Jeez Louise. Bobby Day, he said he's got a few of those. Man.
Bobby Day. Nice one, Bobby.
That was a good one.
Nice one. Yeah, that was a good one. All right, who's next?
Do you want to do one more? We've got a few more. I've got a few more, but
let's have one more.
You want one more? We're going to go with Mr. Danny Burstein.
So I grew up in Queens from when I was we moved into a house in Queens in Flushing when I was about 9 or 10. And the previous owner had died in the house in the basement. And my parents bought the house, and most of the furniture from the woman that died there stayed, including the chair she died in. So they kept that chair in the basement.
Oh, no.
And, every once in a while you had a weird feeling around that chair and thought you saw it rocking sometimes by itself. But both my older brother and my younger brother and myself, we lived upstairs, not on the main floor. We had a room upstairs, and we all were tickled at one time or another. And then I remember being tapped on the shoulder, and I turned around, and I thought I was the only one in the house. And so I went searching for my brother and couldn't find anybody. But I was distinctly tapped on the shoulder. And one time a drawer opened by itself. And I started to get nervous. And so here I am, 11-year-old Danny. I said out loud one day in the house, when I was alone in the house, I said to this, because I had a feeling that there was somebody there all the time, like I was being watched. It was a very strange feeling. But I said out loud, show yourself. I know that sounds
Why
crazy,
would you?
But I did.
Why would you do that?
Because you're making me scared. You're scaring me.
Yep.
And I stood there in silence, and of course nothing happened. But I never had that feeling again. I never had the feeling that I was being watched again. And I was never tickled, and nobody was ever touched again for the rest of the time that we lived there. My parents still live in that house. They don't have that chair anymore, though. The other story is about when I was working at the Belasco Theater, which was, notoriously haunted. I was by myself on the stage running something, And as I was looking out into the audience, I noticed in the balcony, in the house right balcony, this blue light, as if someone were shining a spotlight onto the balcony seats, and it was dancing around. This blue light. And I thought that was kind of weird. I don't even know where that's coming from. I couldn't figure out how that was happening. And then it sort of disappeared into the wall. It sort of faded away into the wall. I thought that was sort of a blue orb. And I, went about my business, and I mentioned it soon after to one of the stagehands. And he said, "Oh, yeah, you saw the ghost. That was Mr. Belasco's mistress. What? She wore a blue dress, and apparently she died, got stuck in the elevator and died."
Oh, shit.
So I saw the ghost at the Belasco Theater. That was pretty cool.
Oh, wow. That's good. Danny Burstyn's come through. He's got some good ones. I bet he's got more as well.
People. Again, it goes back to those people that actually can see or choose to see.
Yeah.
Interesting how he said to the one in the house where show yourself, and then it decided to move on.
Yeah.
I wonder if that coincided with them getting rid of the chair, though, or maybe that was later.
Maybe ghosts don't realize that they're scaring you until you say something.
No, you talk to them.
Yeah. Crazy.
Maybe children don't actually have imaginary friends. They actually have ghost friends.
Maybe.
Like you said earlier on.
And then when they get ignored, they're like, "Oh, okay, bye." They go away.
You have reached the end of part 1.
Stay tuned for part 2 of The Paranormal. You dickhead.